missing someone.
Hey everyone, this is Bond Diesel, and I'm going to try to bring you a quick recap and kind of big things I noticed about the Division 2 demo. As you may or may not know, I was a star player for Ubisoft. I went to E3 this week and got to spend a decent amount of time with the Division 2 demo. It was that one random encounter at the crashed Air Force One airplane. I got about 5-6 runs in it, and here are the highlights. I'm going to go deeper into this stuff as we go on, but these are the big things I noticed. So first, graphics. The graphics are obviously better. They're doing this whole new game with the updated Snowdrop engine. It has to look better, right? And it definitely does. Partially because of upgrades and partially because it's a whole new environment. It's green. There's water that you actually interact with, where in the Division there's only one spot where you did and you weren't really supposed to. The little things look great. There's one point where I saw a shopping cart full of stuff, and I shot it and it fell over and the contents like rolled out. They didn't just fly up in the air, but they actually fell out. The physics are pretty heavy, and I even noticed that the wheels, the spinning wheels on the shopping cart, spun and then naturally actually stopped spinning, as you would expect, not like an animation. But it's the green that you notice, the green in the water. When you run through the water, it reacts appropriately. When you shoot at it, when there's explosions, the stuff in the water bounces with the waves as you'd expect. I assume as a little Easter egg at the beginning, there was a little rubber ducky, and you can send it flying. But the graphics were just incredible. It was really, really cool. And the Air Force One plane itself was very awe-inspiring. You've seen it before, but it definitely looked very interesting and kind of jarring when you see it broken up all over the place. The big things were movement and gunplay. The movement of the character, and you may want to hear other people's experiences because maybe they were different than mine, but the character feels heavy, but not in a bad way. In the Division and in a lot of games, your character feels like feather light and not like this human who's running, weighs 200 pounds, 180, 200 pounds, and has 50 to 60 pounds of gear all over them. In the Division 2, they definitely feel like they carry that weight and the momentum a lot more. Things like chicken dancing and stuff like that, that's the first thing people tried to do, and it didn't work, which is awesome. The gunplay, again, that's a thing. It's hard to describe, but the recoil is more present, but it feels better. Where like most of my guns right now in the Division are just lasers, and that's because they're the lightweight M4 with the proper mods, right? And then this one, it all felt different. Every gun felt unique. From medium to short range, the Vector with its 1100 RPM would just tear enemies down, and then the lightweight M4, still has 850 RPM, but it just feels different, and it felt like you couldn't just hold the trigger down and go at an enemy at long range. You really had to burst fire. On the other side of that, you're rewarded by a lower TTK, which I'll talk about in a moment. But it just felt smooth. It felt very good. Coming back to play the Division 1 is fine, but I could really remember how different it was since I spent that time with the Division 2. And last, the cover. The cover system is extremely similar. It hasn't changed much from what I could tell, but that's a good thing in my opinion. But there were so many more places to take cover. You're talking about dirt berms that have been pushed up by the crashed airplane. You're talking about every single surface you could think of. You can definitely tell that without all the big buildings everywhere like we had in the Division, they've now utilized other ways of giving us cover, and they felt really, really good. The last little piece I'll talk about quickly, the gameplay. The time to kill I mentioned earlier. The time to kill is significantly lower, and I'm sure you've heard other people talk about this. It's lower for you and for the enemy, for the AI. So when they take cover and they pop out, if you put accurate shots on them, you can take them down in one burst if you hit them in chest and head area. The big issue with that, because of that lower TTK for them, they've made the enemies react to being shot at very different. They'll duck, they'll dive, they'll juke, they'll slide into cover. They don't just stand there when they get hit and get stunned the way the current enemies do. They make significant action to try not to die, and they can do that. And it seems they've made that choice gameplay wise because they can die quicker. So they're allowing them to be more evasive. The way you may see the hunters or the LMB in the legendary missions, it's even more evasive than that, but it doesn't feel cheap like that does sometimes. They aren't teleporting around and stuff like that. They just simply feel like they're reacting like real people would when they're getting shot at. The specializations were really, really interesting. I got to play all three. The grenade one I only got to use once, and it was obviously really cool. It's a freaking grenade launcher. But actually, I really liked the crossbow. You had to lead with your shots with the crossbow. There's a few moments where I tried to shoot an enemy and I missed. I shot behind him. But then there was one where I shot right ahead of him as he was running, and it just nailed him. And he just stood there and looked around as he was sent to the atmosphere. It was a really good effect, but the sniper was definitely my favorite. And the main reason, my favorite experience with the sniper was the sniper penetrates. It goes through the enemies. And the big giant heavies that the True Sons have that grenade pouch on their back. And since the bullet penetrates, I could shoot him in his chest in the front, and it went through his body and hit his grenade pouch on his back, exploded, removed his chest armor, and my team was able to melt him extremely quickly because I took that action. There are other times in other runs where we flanked him and shot his grenade pack off as well, but with that sniper rifle, it took one round to get rid of all of his chest armor, and he died extremely quickly. It was a really cool moment. You can even take out multiple enemies with one shot because it'll penetrate every enemy behind your original target. Which could lead to some really cool highlight compilations, I suspect. And then lastly, the skills. The new ones that we got to see during this demo were the Beehive, which looks like a big pineapple basically, that has a bunch of tiny little drones that come out and attack the nearest enemy's weak point. So for instance, the big giant guy for the True Sons, it attacked his grenade pack and would blow it up. The drone, which we all saw, we've all wanted. No, it's not controlled by a tablet, thank goodness, but it is controlled. It will control itself, and any nearby enemies, it'll attack them. But you can also use the right bumper button on the Xbox controller to target specific enemies in the distance. It was really, really cool, and it was very effective. And last, the gas launcher. The only version of this we saw was one that shot a gas cloud that could be caught on fire by shooting at it. And it led to some really, really cool moments where before the fighting started, you could drop one of these in a group of enemies and they don't hear it. They don't know it's there. And when you start firing at them, it would set 5 or 6 of them on fire. And it was just a really, really, really cool effect. So those are the things I kind of figured I would spit out there, put to a video, and talk to you guys about. I assume you guys noticed most of those, but hearing it from someone who actually got to touch it may be more interesting. I'm going to put out some more in-depth videos as I have time and as we get some more information over the following weeks and months about the game. That's all I have for now. You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch at BondDiesel, on Instagram as BondDiesel_Twitch. And until the next time, this is BondDiesel.